Hello, Planetsiders. I go by Rabid. I'm a builder main, and today I'm sharing one of my builds with the community. This build is on Indar's Lowland trading post, built when your faction has the northern warp gate. I'll hold here and go over the end product, then go back to the beginning and show the entire building process. Most of the base is sheltered behind the structure at Lowland to protect it from tank fire. Enemy tanks would have to push across open desert to flank it from either the east or west, which shouldn't end well for them if there's anything close to an even battle happening here. The spawn tube, deployed sunderer, vehicle and air pads, flail, and orbital strike are all in places which should make them difficult for the enemy to destroy. In addition to this, there are buildings with shielded windows for the troops to garrison, placed at all the most likely routes enemy infantry will use to get in. My final point before I get into the build is that I was able to build all of this with only my own structures. Second player structures are not needed to set this up, but are nice to have to further expand upon it. Start with your silo at the base of this ramp, and grab an infantry tower. You'll see that I line the center of the tower up with one of the faded yellow stripes and place it in as low as possible. If you accidentally spin the building, don't try to spin it back to straight. Just draw a weapon or any other piece of equipment, then draw the building again. It will always draw straight to you. Next, grab a sunderer garage, line it up with the tower, and place it as high as possible. At this point, it's worth mentioning that I enlarge and fix my minimap and zoom it in. I find this helps me to align buildings correctly and not have anything crooked by 5 or 10 degrees. Then, to test the garage placement, place a pane spire inside. Due to the slight slope of the terrain, you'll have to place it towards the north end. The important thing is to fit it far enough inside the garage that it will be completely covered by the shields once they're up. Wiggle and twist however much you have to, but if you can't place the spire inside the garage, you will have to delete the garage with the welding tool and try again. Now set up your spawn tube. An important consideration is the direction the troops using the spawn tube will face. You can see as I'm spinning it that one of the green globes sticks out farther than the others. Think of this as the tail of the spawn tube, and that troops will face the opposite direction from this globe. I'm facing them north as this is where I will place the vehicle pad. Remember that it is entirely possible that you are the only person who knows the layout of your base. Other players may spawn in wanting to defend you, but they don't know what you placed where or what your intentions are. By being mindful of where you place your spawn point and what direction they face, you're effectively grabbing your teammates by the shoulders and pointing them in the right direction. Now I'm setting up my control point defenses. I'm starting with a pane spire, which will cover a pillbox in front of it. Line it up approximately with these stairs, then move it a little bit to the right. The reason is that there will be a gap between the pillbox and the guardrail, and if your spire is tight to the rail, then enemy troops will be able to shoot it from a safe distance. Now the pillbox. Place it at such a height that it will have a dirt floor with space for modules in the forward alcove. This way, as far as the game knows, that's still exterior ground, and it will let you place modules there. However, if you place it at minimum height, there won't be enough space in that forward alcove. I don't have a specific reference for you, I just know from experience that this is the correct height. Okay, it's time to get some modules active, and I'm starting with the AI module so the base can protect itself a little bit. I find this works best if I place the module on the left or west side of the garage behind the pane spire. Then the anti-aircraft gun placed beside the vehicle pad at the edge of the module's power range. Now the anti-vehicle turret placed as close to the first turret as allowed and again at the edge of the power range. Spinning it inwards will make your walls easier to place later. Now the anti-infantry turret. This is placed in the interior of the base so that it is protected from vehicle fire, covers the main building roof, the double doors at the top of the ramp, and most of the base interior. Final thing to be powered by the AI module is the flail. For me, the rings are bugged for this structure, but I know that it will be powered here. Now I'm just throwing a bunch of modules down. No real surprises at this part. Just spread them out as much as possible while putting them in the garage to mitigate the damage from cordium bombs. As for the modules in the pillbox, these can be a bit fussy to place. You don't want to spin them when placing them in the alcove. Their position when you first draw them is perfect. I'm getting these two modules as far forward as possible to leave room for teammates to add more modules to the pillbox. My main interest is in getting somebody's sky shield in here. At this point, the base is still quite open and accessible. It's time to get going on the enclosure. I find that the easiest way to get walls set where I want them is to twist them so I'm looking down them lengthwise. From here I can use the push-pull mechanic to line them up as close to edges as possible. Snap your walls tight enough to edges that players can't outright walk through and check them. If you can walk through a gap, so can a max, so can 40 maxes. What you don't want to sweat too hard about is making it perfectly airtight. There's always going to be some edge that somebody can jump over somewhere, as I will demonstrate here. There's always going to be some cheeky infiltrator who finds unplanned ways in. Try not to worry about that, you're just going to have to deal with them. What you do need to worry about is if an enemy max crash finds an unplanned way in. After two walls, I now place a vehicle gate across the vehicle pad's exit. This is going to be spun around backwards just because the stairs are too much of a pain to deal with. Having them on the outside has never caused a serious problem for me. A point to be concerned about is this piece in the corner on the skinny post can easily become a tow catcher for vehicles exiting the pad. Place it low enough to bury this, then draw a lightning tank from the pad. The Lightning is the widest and lowest vehicle, so if it's clear, so is any other vehicle. Now a wall for the other side. For this one you are going to be fighting the terrain a lot. The construction system does not work well with slopes, and a slope is exactly what's here. I have to swing this thing out much wider than I would like in order to find terrain where I can place it at all, and still the end by the pillbox is much lower than I would like. What I'm wiggling for is to get the firing slot above ground so that crouching players can at least pop off some ankle shots through the gap. What I don't want is a solid face for enemies to hide behind, or a wall so low that enemies can jump over it. As always, check the tightness of the placement. As I run back around here, you can see what I was talking about earlier with regard to the placement of the pain spire. It is barely visible at all from the side. Continuing the perimeter wall, I now grab a blast wall. I use it to make the corner here and aim it at that rock over by the vehicle gate. This doesn't need to be tight to the rampart wall, as blast walls have passageways for infantry anyways. It's not ideal, but most enemies will die before they get this far around, and even if they do get through here, they are now facing the shielded windows from the pillbox. Really, these are just keeping vehicles out. After the blast wall, place a vehicle gate, and then a final blast wall which interfaces with this rock. Finally, I use an ammo tower to block the final gap in the wall. If it happens to ever deliver ammo to a vehicle, that's nice, but really this is just sandbagging a hole well enough that the average harasser driver won't get through. You could also use your glaive for this. Now that the enclosure is completed, time for the orbital strike, which will inform everyone within a kilometer of this base's existence if they didn't already know. Once it's placed, run up to the console, hold Q, and set permission to squad. If your base is attacked, you are going to be very busy. It's nice to have the big guns operated by other people. It's just one less thing to do. The flail is open to squad by default, hence I didn't change it. Next, the airpad. You probably want to place this sooner than I did in this demonstration, as once people see someone is building, everyone starts adding their stuff on any open ground. The large footprint the airpad needs is unlikely to remain open long enough for it to be put off. I'm intentionally facing it north so that aircraft start flying away from hazards and can get their bearings before they fly into the fight, rather than being flown over flak as they are gaining control. Routing spires are handy to have as well. If this is going to be used to support a platoon, then it'd be better if somebody else placed it and took care of that for you. However, router carriers are used to setting their own bases close to the warp gate, in which case you can place your router defensively, such as on the roof of the original structure. At this point, I'm now just flipping through menus to see what I forgot, such as the alarm module. The reinforcement module goes close to the base of the ramp, as this is where I'll place a Sunderer. Of course, no base is complete without a faction banner. In this demo, I brain dumped my third repair module, so no footage of it, but placed that third repair module by the silo. And now the Sunderer. As mentioned earlier, you know your build, other people don't. This is why I backed the Sunderer up the ramp. This actually matters. Players who spawn on the Sundy will face whatever direction it does, will instinctively press W, then start thinking about where they're going. If you face the Sundy up the ramp, they will run through the double doors to fight in the building where they have no advantage and there's nothing important to contest anyways. Face it down the ramp, so they will run into the pillbox where they have painspire coverage, shielded windows, and will contest the control point while enjoying these benefits. As far as I can tell, the reinforcement module overrides all of this game's spaghetti-coded spawn system rules and forces the spawn point to be available to your full faction regardless of what restrictions ought to be in place. If the battle heats up, remember to get a couple people to stay in the tower you started with. Its height is just right to fire into the double doors. Any higher in the angle would be too steep. From here, there is enormous potential to expand this base. Other builders can build forward sections on the south side, which enemies have to hack through before they can even begin attacking your base. If someone does this, know that you can drive a Sunderer up the balcony beside the pillbox in order to have a spawn point in the forward section. Extra vehicle gates can create safe zones for friendly vehicles to repair. Flail bases can be constructed in the area to provide additional fire support. Really, the sky's the limit, and this build is a great centerpiece to get it all started with.